I just want to do God's will.
The kind of revolution that the world needs is a Christian revolution.
If you want a miracle, you've got to expect it to happen.
You are the recipients of God's grace and God's blessings, and you rejoice in that reality.
Welcome to Life Today Live. I'm Randy Robinson. Great to have you here on this Monday. And one of the questions, sometimes an accusation, of the pro-life movement is around the issue of what happens after the baby's born, you know? Do you care about the mother as much as you do the child? Do you care about the child as they're growing up? Well, the answer is clear and resounding yes. And, you know, the people that work on the other side of birth don't get the media attention that those who are fighting on in the womb side of birth, and so you maybe get this misperception. But we're going to straighten some of that out today, because you're going to meet someone who has been helping mothers who most are in poverty after they have the children. She's been doing this for years. She has a book out that tells her story and what she does. It's called Beyond Her Yes, and it is written by Marisol Maldonado Rodriguez. And I want you to hear the work she's doing and why she's doing it, and how we can all actually support, and some of you maybe even get involved in solving this issue. She says that women in poverty are targeted for abortions. So if you want to stop abortion, let's help the women in poverty. Marisol, great to have you on Life Today Live. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So give us a little bit of just information on what you do sort of on a day-to-day basis, what the ministry of the Renew Life Center is.
Well, Renew Life Center partners with pregnancy resource centers to provide additional support through education and mentoring to the women who have chosen life. And we're also a partner with the church. So for the church, we are a vehicle through which the church can get involved in helping these women after they made that choice for life. So predominantly, like I said, it's education, because we know that education is the foundation of everything to help us get ahead in life. But specifically, we're educating them in the root causes of poverty, because when you come from generational poverty, it's important to understand why you're there. You've been there, your family's been there for generations. You need to understand why that happened, how it happened, and what it is that you need to do to break the cycle.
And, you're up in the northern part of New Jersey, but, the cycles are the same no matter where you are.
That's correct.
What do you see in these women when they come in for help with you guys?
Oh, well, what I see are women that had a hope, had a dream. Maybe the dream was to be the first person in her family to go to college, or the first person to have a career, and oftentimes that pregnancy, that unexpected baby is now your obstacle to achieving that dream, right? Yeah. And what we want women to understand is that it doesn't have to be that way. With the right support and the right mentoring, you can have your baby and you can attain that dream you had of graduating high school, going to college, having a career, or whatever the dream was. It is possible if you have the support around you to make it possible, and that's what we want them to see, that it's not one or the other. You can have both.
How many times have you seen this work out successfully?
A lot of times. Wow. I was just talking about it earlier. Women come in, and when you tell them there are, you do have options, because here's the thing. Oftentimes when you come from poverty, you don't see the options available to you. And if you do see them, you're afraid to take advantage of them, because you're so afraid of failure and rejection and so many things that you're afraid to put yourself out there. But when you have a group of people that surround you and say, no, we are here with you to walk alongside you as you go through this process, and as you do this, guess what? There's courage, and it's easier to be courageous in a group than to be by yourself. Right? So I see it work more often than not. I've seen this morning, I was just talking about several of our ladies who came to us homeless, jobless, pregnant, multiple children, and now are in careers, where they're in management, and they're in careers making more money than they've ever made in their life. So it may not be enough for you and me, but for them, it's a big deal, So
well, and for their kids as well, they're taking care of their children.
Absolutely. Well, this work is generational. So this is the beauty of it, is that we're not just helping one mom or one baby. We're helping families for generations to come, because information, knowledge, wisdom, all these things are transferred generationally in your family. And that's what causes the divide, because as middle class people, just our children, just growing up in our home, they picked up so many skills that aren't taught to them. It's caught because they're just growing up in that environment.
Yeah.
And they're growing up with all these skills that is preparing them to be a success. When you come from a home where all you've done, your family's ever done, is survive for generations, that's the skill set that is passed on to you, our survival skill sets. So how do you take survival skill set and use that in the professional world? Doesn't work. Right? It doesn't work. So what we do with women is that we give them the skill set that is beyond survival. Survival skill set is good. I mean, it's good to have that. You know, you never know when you're going to need it, but you need to have another skill set as well, so you can operate in the professional world, be it education or in the workforce. You need those skills.
So when we look at poverty, obviously it's circumstantial. You know, you're born into poverty. You didn't do anything to put yourself there. It's just where you were born. But I think in a lot of cases it's a mindset as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How much is the mindset? How much is the circumstance?
Well, you know, it's a little of both, but the mindset builds on the circumstance.
Yeah.
It is definitely a mindset. And that's what we try to do, is shift someone's mindset from always thinking about survival, you know, always thinking about, how do I get through today? How do I pay the rent this month? How do I do this for now? To thinking, how can I do this every month, every year for the rest of my life? Right. So it is absolutely a mindset. And I grew up in generational poverty. So I'm speaking for myself that I had a mindset that needed shifting.
Well, and I'm fascinated. I mean, you talk about that in your book, Beyond Her Yes. But tell us a little bit about what that looked like for you.
Well, you know, unfortunately, I didn't have a workshop called Getting Ahead to shift my mindset. But what I did have was a caring church family. So here I am growing up, one of 5 daughters to a single mom in a church. And this was by no means a mega church with a lot of money. This was a very poor storefront church that had maybe a couple of families that we would consider middle class. And all it took was for someone in my congregation, or multiple people really of the congregation, to take note. First of all, take note of my mother, take note of her circumstances, come alongside her. How can you help this single mom with 5 daughters? You know, how can you the women at the church helped my mother open a bank account, taught her about savings, you know, taught her about social services programs she could take advantage of to help her children. But then other people in a congregation came around me and said, "Hey, Marisol, you graduated high school. What are you going to do now?" And you know what my response was? I don't know. I really didn't know. There was no plan. There was no vision. There was no dream. There was nothing, because when you come from the background I come from, you don't do that. Nobody does that, you know? So I didn't know I was allowed to dream. So when someone came alongside me and asked me that question, I said, "I don't know." At least this person said, "Well, you don't have a plan, but let me help you. I know they're hiring over here. Maybe, you know, in the computer field, maybe you could apply over here." And this gentleman set me in a almost 20-year professional in the IT field where I made a lot of money.
Wow.
Simply because he noticed, he asked, he cared. So let me tell you, he helped me write the resume, wrote me a letter of recommendation, drove me to the interview, coached me on the way, sat in the car waiting for me to. So this was the investment that someone just like that did. And it changed my life forever. And it changed the life of my children forever. So this is the power that the church has, that Christians have, when we just notice people, ask questions, and how can you use your resources to better the life of someone else?
Yeah. No, I love it. Why did he do that? Do you know?
I honestly don't know, but I thank him. And let me tell you something. He found out about my book on Facebook and he purchased it. And now he volunteers here.
Oh, wow. No,
and now he volunteers here. So it's amazing.
Well, you know, and when you think about, you know, Christianity, and I know that there's the spectrum of what that is and what. But to me, this is what it looks like. This is showing the love of Christ on a very granular, a day-to-day kind of very practical level. I mean, if he was a part of the church, I'm assuming that is part of his motivation, if not all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also is that the way my mom and her children were embraced without judgment, she knew her life was a mess. She knew
Yeah.
Her choices weren't very good. We didn't need to remind her of that. She was she carried the shame on her. And let me tell you, that shame just passed on to the children, because oftentimes growing up, I felt ashamed that I didn't have a father. I felt ashamed that me and my sisters had different last names. There was a lot of shame involved in that. And they don't need to go to church and get more shame. They need to go to church and learn about the love of God, salvation through Jesus Christ, and then having that family surround you so you don't have to keep making bad decisions just to survive. When you have more choices, you can make better decisions.
Oh, I love the heart of that, because nobody's, affirmed anybody in their poverty or in their sin, but just give you a helping hand out of it without the condemnation. I mean, we all know John 3:16. Remember the very next verse, 3:17 says, Christ didn't come into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And when I hear your story, I say, okay, here is someone who came in, like you said, without the condemnation. You didn't need that. I mean, you already, but said, hey, look, here's how we're going to get you out. Here's how we're going to save you and your children from this generational poverty. To me, that just exemplifies Christ right there.
Yeah. Because it's, what? They made sure that her children knew Jesus and strengthened her faith in the Lord. So it's just not, as the church, leading people to eternal life, but also leading them to a life that is abundant here on earth, and I'm not talking money abundant, but just being able to be self-sufficient, just being able to provide for yourself, even at the most modest level, I think is what we should be able to do to give people that dignity, that you get from that.
I mean, it's hard when you're wondering where your next meal comes from. I mean, it does put you into survival mode. I mean, there's
right.
That's not just a mindset. That's a reality for a lot of people. And abundance puts you in a position to then give, to help others. Right.
Yes.
So I absolutely love it. When we do this, helping a single mother, helping with the skills. What you've seen? How many children do you have? I'm curious.
I have 4.
You have 4. So contrast sort of what you grew up in with what your children grew up in, because I'm guessing it's night and day.
It is night and day. And it's funny because, I have 3 boys and 1 girl. So you can imagine the boys gave me a run for my money, right? Yeah. So, my kids heard it all the time. I clawed myself out of the ghetto to give you a better life. When my sons come home and they want to wear the pants drooping down below their waist, like the saggy pant thing that the urban kids do. Yeah. I was like, pull those pants up. And they're like, no, Mom. I'm like, pull those pants up. Like, that's where I grew up. And I clawed myself out of there to give you a better life so you will be respected. So it's like my children's life is so different than mine. And I am so proud to say that because, I made it to high school. I went to college a couple of years, but it's a little known fact that first generation college students from generational poverty oftentimes don't finish college. And I was one of those because you don't fit in. You don't understand the mindset. You're such an outsider when you go there. And that's how I felt. I had no connections. I mean, joining a sorority. What is a sorority? Who does that? Like that, it's such a foreign thing, but my children, I'm so proud to say out of my 4 children, I have 2 college graduates. I have a Marine, and I have a son who initially was so funny. He broke my heart. He dropped out of college after the first semester to become a waiter. And, it was like a stab in the heart. But let me tell you today, that young man has become one of the most popular event planners, restaurant managers in the
Nice.
state of New Jersey.
Nice.
I mean, he's sought after to do events all over the country, but it's like he knew better than I do. So college isn't for everybody,
Yeah.
and that's not the
Yeah.
only way to be success.
Right.
But he found his own way. If we give, see, here's the thing: if we give a kid the support and the love, whether college or not, they'll find their way. And this is what we want for these women to choose that choose life, right? We want them to choose life. Now, what is that baby's life going to be like? Is he going to be raised in a ghetto? Are there gunshots around? Does the hallway where he lives smell like marijuana? Are his closest male role models the street gang members? So we really got to think of, what does it look like afterwards for them? And I do think we bear some kind of responsibility in that, especially when we're on the sidewalk telling them, and you know what, it's never okay to abort a baby, even if it's going to grow up in that environment. But once we intervene, I think that we owe them more than that, and I think it's such a huge opportunity for the church to step in, to share Christ by helping them through that. You have the opportunity to share Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Your whole perspective, I think, is just spot on. And I think, I guess people that are giving you the amens and this is true, inspiring, you got your cheering section online right now. But for someone who is watching this going, I want to make a difference like she is. Where do they start?
Well, several ways. I'll give you a bunch of, first of all, find out if you want to make a difference in this area, go on Google and find your local pregnancy resource center. I think there's a website called optionline.org that if you put in your zip code, it gives you all of the pregnancy center that are closest to you. I would say stop by. Make an appointment, bring your church friends with you, and get a tour, find out what they're doing, find out where their needs are. Do they need more volunteers? Look, volunteers make ministries like mine and the pregnancy center possible. Find out what kind of volunteers they need, find out if they need financial resources, right? Find out, hey, do you have a ministry partner that goes beyond the care that a pregnancy center does? Kind of like a Renew Life Center. If there isn't one, hey, how about you explore what it is that you need to do to maybe start something like that in your area?
Yeah.
You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars. You do need people who care and are passionate about it to get involved. I think it's a great ministry opportunity for the church. If you have Catholic listeners, I know at least the Archdiocese of Patterson over here starting a program called Walking with Moms in Need. And they're rolling this out to all their parishes to help their congregations get involved in women that choose life. And that wouldn't be wonderful if Evangelical did something similar like that. Yeah. It's really many hands make light work. We don't expect every church to do everything, but if everyone did something, it would change generations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, down south here, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and they have a crisis pregnancy center. But I also grew up with a little bit of those Catholics over there, And I've gotten to know some Catholics and that love Jesus, and they're doing the work. And I think it would actually you could do two things at once. If you're Catholic and those separated brethren over there, go volunteer at the Southern Baptist Crisis Pregnancy Center near you. And if you're evangelical, go to the Catholic one. You'll actually do two things at the same time. You'll learn to love people that you haven't really known very well, and it'll expand your mind, I think, in a positive way. You won't agree on everything, that's fine, but then you'll show some unity. I mean, what is it Jesus said, and John, the disciple, allegedly said for like the last years of his life, was love one another. I think we start loving one another, we will be so much better equipped to then love the people in the community that need it the most. So I love that. Also, by the way, I want to show people your book again. This is Beyond Her Yes by Marisol Maldonado Rodriguez. And when you buy this book, which you go online, you'll find it, or you can go actually to the website too, Renew Life Center, NJNewJersey.org. When you buy that, you will be helping to support the outreach that Marisol does. So if you're wondering what can I do, you can do that today, and you just buy 5 or 10 of them and take them down to your local crisis pregnancy center and just say, hey, here's a book that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And keep one
Share
to
it with your
yourself.
pastor.
Share it with your
Yeah.
pastor. All sorts of great things.
Yeah.
Last question, because, you're up not too far from New York City. You're in a very Democrat-leaning area, which is pro-abortion as a party platform. So I'm not trying to dig into the politics here, but to say that you're in an area where it's not like down here, where abortion is much more favored up there in your region. Do you see a changing of hearts and minds? Because that's, I think, the only way we're ever going to win this pro-life battle. Do you see a changing of hearts and minds when you do the hard work of loving people like you guys are?
Yeah, you absolutely do, because I accidentally, when I wrote this book, what I accidentally did was make friends with some even Christians who are pro-choice, because they are all they're like, oh, finally someone is doing something after the woman chooses life,
Right.
and that's great. So I've made friends with those folks, and people's like, well, do you have them volunteering? Well, yes, in certain capacities, because guess what? Now they're surrounded by people who are 100% pro-life, committed to the cause, and I know they're learning from it. I know that their thoughts of what the Pregnancy Resource Center is, because especially since that Roe v. Wade was overturned, Pregnancy Resource Center, especially in my area in the Northeast, have been under attack.
Yeah,
Heavily under attack. Yeah. They're doing newspaper articles and television interviews saying how we spread misinformation, medical information that is incorrect, and so forth. And it is absolutely not true. So when you have those people inside your center seeing how we love, how we truly respect each woman, how we don't judge, how our information is 100% accurate, then it's changing minds and hearts right there too. So I just hope, I don't know what God is going to use this book for, but I really hope he uses it to, number one, rouse the church up to say, let's get up and let's get out and let's do something. And I hope it kind of speaks to those Christians who, for whatever reason, have this pro-choice view. I hope it speaks to them, and I hope they get involved as well, so they could see the truth.
Yeah. Well,
of what pro-life is.
I know you're speaking loudest to the women who come in there. Most of them hopeless, no future, no vision. You're giving that. I mean, without that hope and the vision for the future, people they won't. They're just barely surviving. Some of them won't survive, but they don't have. They don't have purpose and meaning, and I mean, you're giving people something that you just almost you can't fully identify, in the sense that, I mean, you can't really explain it. It's so beyond just the words. It's life. I mean, I'm having a hard time expressing it, because you're giving something more than just a political idea or a handout. I mean, you're giving them a hope and a future, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. And it's worth gold. What price do you put on that?
Right.
What price do you do that? And let me tell you, when you grow up in poverty, even as a child, you have hope. I remember times when I had hope, but that hope gets squashed pretty quick. And to have someone come alongside you and restore that hope, and it's a priceless thing, because you're not going to accomplish anything in life significant if you don't have hope first. Hope that things can be better, hope that I can be a bigger part of society. I read a statistic one time that people in poverty usually live within an 8-block radius of their home. 8 blocks. Okay. They don't venture out. Why? Because it's scary out there. Those people are different. They talk different. They look different. They think different. Am I accepted there? Do they like me? We all want to be liked, right? So to get people to feel comfortable enough to break that 8-block barrier and go somewhere else is freeing.
Yeah.
It's freedom. And, I want to add something, because when people want to get involved, they're like, well, I don't know if I have anything to offer. Wow. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, my goodness, you have things to offer, besides just offering Christ. But these women, they need love and compassion, and they need friendship, and they need to feel less isolated. And hey, if you're a mom, they could use some of your advice. And they just need, they don't need experts to come in here, excuse me, with some kind of agenda to do something. They need relationships,
Yeah.
And if you're a mom and you ever help your son or daughter get a driver's license, that's the kind of help these ladies need.
Yeah.
Getting a driver's license, filling out an application, coaching her on making a phone call to inquire about a job, so there's so much that we have to offer. Just our day-to-day living experience are the things that she needs to learn.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love that the world can see we do care about the mothers. We do care about the children afterwards. Because, I mean, we didn't even talk about all the needs of the children who are born. And there's so much that everyday people can do things, picking a child up, getting them their school supplies. I mean, there's a lot of room for love. Thank you for exemplifying that, Marisol. I appreciate your time today. Is there anything you want to add before I let you go?
No, I just want to thank you, and I want to thank your audience, and I want to encourage them to get a copy of that book and see how it inspires you. Hopefully it will, to take action in this area. And thanks.
We can make a difference. Well, you're doing it. You're showing us how to make a difference.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. That's exactly right. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate you guys watching. I want to show you the website for the Renew Life Center New Jersey. Looks just like that. There's the URL, renewlifecenternj.org. And, of course, Marisol's book is available. It's called Beyond Her Yes. Appreciate you guys out there. Let's do it. We can change this world one life at a time. We'll see you again next time here on Life Today.
It is always possible to do the will of God. Nobody can prevent you from doing the will of God.